Looks like we are ready to go. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to. Let me try to get my. Trying to get my background going here. But with that being said, tonight the topics we're going to get into are as follows: the Boston Celtics and Philadelphia 76ers game 6. It'll be kind of like a kicking it with Kruse, Celtics post-game show and New England Patriots schedule release, as the NFL schedule release came out today. I want to obviously get into some of that specifically. And then if there's anything else, too, that I want to get into, it's going to be kind of a shorter type of show. We're kicking it with Kruse tonight. But hopefully you all are doing well. This is obviously, it's now 11:32 Eastern time. So like I said, topics really for tonight, NBA playoffs. I do want to get a little into NHL playoffs, kind of later on the program. We'll obviously see as well specifically if you get any guests on for tonight's program. As I've talked with some of my buddies off the air, specifically in terms of the Celtics and Sixers game 6 final, which we will get into probably first, and then we'll obviously get into the rest of the series. But with that being said, I think we will kind of get started. Let's get into it. Hold on, let me just quickly get this over to some people. Let's see. And we'll get going from here. So with that being said, your Boston Celtics took on the Philadelphia 76ers for game 6. The Celtics were down 3-2 in the series, so it was a winner-take-all type of game. For most of this game specifically, it just didn't feel like the Celtics night. It felt like specifically, they had a 16-point lead. The first half, the Celtics looked pretty locked in. They looked like they were a team ready to go. And they were a team specifically that I emphasized in game 5 that they got to lock in. This is now or never. It's do or die. It's put up or shut up. And, for the most part of that first half, it really was because of key contributors of guys like Marcus Smart, Derek White, and Malcolm Brogdon. A lot of those guys got going specifically. And I thought for the most part, Al and Rob played pretty hard on, Harden and Embiid. So right before the game specifically, I guess an hour or two ahead of time, Joe Mazzulla decided to go double big in tonight's lineup to start off. So this lineup tonight was with Tatum, Brown, Smart, Horford, and Rob Williams. And you had Derek White and Marcus Smart off the bench alongside Brogdon there as well. And specifically, I thought after game 5, specifically, they might have needed a shakeup, something maybe different, maybe a different look specifically. And, it's obviously something that, that had to be needed. And I think specifically it really paid dividends. I thought that the Celtics really, for the most part, in that first half, they looked like the better team, but they were only up within a decent amount lead, like around 10 or something. I was let's see, 50 to 40, 43. So they were only up 7. So it went from a 16-point lead to a 7-point lead. The Sixers really kind of took over kind of that second half. The Celtics still have had hard times closing out within 5 minutes of execution. And then really the biggest thing specifically that I think a lot of Celtics fans were hoping for, that's been a big, big struggle at least, is Jason Tatum's efficiency from the first pass. Now, the last couple games, specifically Jason Tatum, really just did not show up in the first half at all. I mean, his numbers specifically were pretty putrid in the first halves. And I thought specifically that the Celtics, in a must-win type of game, they needed Jason Tatum to really step up. In the first half specifically, he had, I believe, only 1 or 3 points. I mean, it was just utterly disgraceful. I mean, and then obviously, I'll get more into the end of this game specifically. Is thankfully, I don't have to come on here tonight and be sad and depressed, because I'll tell you in terms of how it ended. And then really in that second half, the Sixers, I thought, really matched up the intensity. The Celtics, they went from a 7-point lead, then it cut down to a 4-point lead. The Celtics, they had a lot of empty possessions, specifically in Tatum's efficiency. I mean, he couldn't buy a bucket. Jaylen Brown, I think, he had a couple of nice drives in the second half to kind of get himself going specifically. So, I think Brown was trying to get into the paint. When you have Embiid, you have a really elite shot blocker in there. The Celtics really had to rely on making their outside shots, and they've been shooting a ton of threes. Specifically, a lot of the series, just a lot of all season. And a lot of them were knocking down the first half. Started the beginning of that second half. They started to kind of get empty. And, the Sixers, they did a really good job in transition. But their defense, I mean, they were swarming to the ball. They were frustrating Tatum. They were frustrating Brown. Even in that fourth quarter specifically, it got really down the wire. It got dicey. The Sixers at times really just felt like they were, the better team, at parts, I guess you could say. But the Celtics just kept fighting. Marcus Smart was a big reason why. He was a big contributor in terms of why they got to where they had to get to tonight. But the Celtics still needed something out of Jason Tatum, something. And then finally, as we do have one of my buddies coming on here to the program for tonight, it is that my good old friend, Stephen Wayne. Stephen, hope you're doing well, my friend. And as I'm kind of recapping through the rest of this game specifically for tonight, the Celtics and Sixers game 6, Stephen had an overall prediction in terms of where this series was going to go to. So, Stephen, I'm here after Game 5, our post-game show we had from, I believe, was it Tuesday? I'm back here on for a more relieved, I guess I can say more hopeful that, it's moved on to another game, another life, I guess you can say, for the Celtics. And, before I get into the overall thoughts in terms of tonight's overall game, I just kind of trying to finish my overall thoughts from the rest of this game kind of myself. And, I was just kind of talking about the inefficiencies with Jason Tatum in terms of for the first half and kind of leading up to this. And then finally, when it got to about 5 minutes, the game was so tight. The Sixers were up by 1. And Jason Tatum hit a 3 right in the corner. I believe it was on the Celtics side of the court. And that got it up to 1. And then Tatum got the ball again. He hit a step-back 3. So that was 2 in a row. So I'm like, okay, maybe something's going there. Maybe sometimes it just takes one for a star player like that, especially with Tatum too. And then he hit another 3. I'm like, okay, if Tatum specifically, and arguably one of the worst performances maybe in his career, but he finishes up when it mattered most, that's what star players do, especially in a overall type of a game that the Celtics needed badly to keep their season alive. He essentially got that lead from 4 points to about 7 points with about a minute 30 left. The Celtics kept playing defense when it mattered most. It reminded me a little bit of that Game 6 closeout game against the Atlanta Hawks last round, where just a lot of big-time plays when it came down to the matter of it. And the Celtics were able to survive this game. They move on to another one, Game 7, another Boston Game 7. Hopefully, specifically, we take advantage of this. And now the Celtics, I looked at this, Steven. the Celtics in Game 6 is being down 3-2 are actually one of the best teams in basketball. I saw a stat specifically yesterday, so that's why I was a little bit hopeful. And another thing, too, with the six of the Doc Rivers, I was just like, you know, don't let us win tonight because I'm just like, the last thing that they want to do is go back to Boston for a Game 7. I understand that they've won twice, but to try to get and win a third time there, I mean, the Celtics just hopefully could be able to protect home court. It's just one game. So obviously after Game 5, I had my doubts, but you're obviously you were right about it off the air. Obviously you predicted that this was going to go to a Game 7. I was saying Celtics in 7 the whole entire way before this, but just looking at this overall series specifically, Steven, it reminds me a lot of the series against Milwaukee. When the Celtics face adversity, they play their best basketball at the right times. So you had it right in the head, and I'm glad that we took the win. The final score from tonight's game, by the way, guys, 95-86 Celtics. In terms of the overall leaders of tonight's game, Marcus Smart led the way with 22 points. Jaylen Brown chipped in 17. Tatum had 19. Brogdon had 16 off the bench. They also got some out of Derek White. And then, Embiid and Maxey each had 26, but Harden only had 13. So that was a big thing in terms of Harden wasn't able to kind of get himself going. And I think that's a big win for the Celtics as they now go to Game 7 on this series Sunday. So, Steven, I'm glad that we can go another Game 7 specifically. I'm hopeful that's now back at our place. But we obviously have to play our best basketball. Let's put up or shut up now for both teams, and we'll see what happens now Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. The Celtics have got to play their best basketball, man. And thanks for giving me that credit because, man, oh man, have I been on a heater, Ben. Off the show, man, you have known that I've gotten so far 7 spread picks right in a row,
Wow.
including I have gotten all 6 games. If tonight is correct, I'll go 8 for 8 overall in my spread predictions in the past week or so. And I will have gotten every single Phoenix-Denver game correct in terms of who I predicted to take the spread and the winner. So I had Denver winning games 1 and 2, Phoenix winning games 3 and 4, and Denver winning 5 and 6. And I could be exactly right on the order of that, as well as who covers the spread on that. So I've been on this crazy heater, man, but let me talk through a couple things. Like I said before, man, this Boston team, this has been what they have been even before Ime Udoka showed up and got suspended, even when they had Brad Stevens, even some of the times when they had Doc Rivers, man. This is a Celtics team that it's not for a lack of talent that they play down to their level of competition. It's the fact that they just have to make every situation difficult, but they always find a way to either come close or to pull through, man. And that was shown again tonight. Like, people really quickly forget. They forget that, in 2010, the Celtics were the 4th seed and they ended up winning the East. Nobody gave them a chance then. People forget that the 2018 Celtics under rookie Tatum and Brown took LeBron James to 7 games. Granted, it was a bit of a choke. They were up 3-2. People very quickly forget. Last year, they went to 7 games against the Miami Heat without Tyler Hero and the Bucks without Middleton. And in both series, they had a crucial opportunity to either close the series out or take a lead. And it looked like, wow, they really blew their chance. Against Miami, they were at home for Game 6, and they blew that. They had to go to Game 7 on the road. Against the Bucks, they lost Game 5 at home, and the series looked all but done when Drew Holiday literally stole what seemed to be like their season away. Yeah. I knew better, Ben, than to doubt these Celtics again this season. And let me tell you, it ain't going to be pretty. It ain't going to be dominant. This is not the Shaq Kobe Lakers or the Durant Warriors, but this Celtics team is poised to win the title because it just seems like every single time you snatch their heart and soul out and they say, oh yeah, what you can do, we can do better because we're the better roster and we're the better team. And we understand that James Harden and Joel Embiid cannot sustainably play perfect basketball night after night. Yeah, you might take a 3-2 lead. Yeah, you might take a halftime lead. But at the end of the series and at the end of the day, who has the better roster? We are going to pound you into oblivion when it really matters. And that's what I've been saying, Ben. They're a team that makes everything more difficult than it should be. But don't confuse that for weakness. Don't confuse that for a team that's not going to get the job done at the end of the day. And here's what I said. I told you, game 4, because of the way they lost in a heartbreak, I understand they came back from a deficit. So it's not exactly an epic choke. It's not if they were up 24 and they lost by 1. But because of the way they lost game 4, losing by 1 in overtime and missing the buzzer beater literally by inches off of Smart's hands and milliseconds, I knew that coming into game 5, it would be a very difficult proposition for them to not only cover the spread, but win the game. And then coming into today, because of the way they got blown out and just mopped away in game 5, I felt mentally that was much easier to recover from. It was much more of a throwaway game and much more of like, now game 6, our season is on the line. What are we going to do about it? Game 5 is game 5. That's in the past. It's not as if we blew a 20-point lead and lost by 1. We got destroyed. Now we can move on fresh to game 6, and we don't have that dejection to overcome. And boy, did they come to show it. What defense they played, and they won by 9 points. I had them winning by 10. Isaiah, shut up, man. You know how hard it is to predict the exact margin of the game, bro. I said they win by 10. They won by 9, bro. They won by 9 points.
You're right on it.
In the exact fashion I knew they would do it, through defense and effort, man. In game 7, I got Boston winning by 6, and ultimately they're going to go on to win this NBA championship, man. I truly believe it. I just think this is a team that, hey, they might play down to the level of competition. Tatum might save and wreck a game from time to time, better than anyone in the NBA. But just at their best, when facing elimination, there's just no better team in the league than this Celtics team, and they proved it tonight. They proved it.
Yeah, I mean, I said in game 5 specifically, I said there's 2 ways that the Celtics can do this specifically. They can either play like they want to do in film from game 2. And now obviously, that being said, it wasn't a blowout like the game film, but the defense specifically, the first early on in this game specifically, the early start paid off dividends big time. Yes, obviously the Sixers made their stretch run, which I expected that was going to do because the Celtics typically they give up lapses, and it was going to happen. The Sixers defensively were able to lock in within the 5-minute mark going into the halftime. They cut from a 16-point lead to a 7-point lead. It started to get really uncomfortable, but Steven, it was reason because of one guy and one guy only. That was Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum specifically, as much as I love the guy, and I'm repping this guy, remember my shirt right now, I could proudly say it. I'm glad for the guy because he stepped when needed. But between him and Brown, those 2 guys specifically had to be better. And, Marcus Smart was a big reason why, and Brogdon and White, a lot of the role players were a big reason why they had to leave where they were in the first half. When it got to the second half specifically, Tatum and Brown still were kind of, they were trying to find it specifically. And essentially, when they both tried to find it in the fourth quarter, it was legitimately the most perfect time to save their season. Within 5 minutes left, Tatum started to hit a couple threes. They started to play defense, and that's Celtics basketball. That's essentially Celtics basketball where you start off a game really well and you finish off the game really well. That's essentially what I was hoping that was going to happen specifically. And I think now you have the momentum after that specifically. And I remember, I think Marcus Smart specifically said after this game tonight, he's like, we don't have many other opportunities with this overall group. Do we want to go essentially and have a lot of what ifs anymore? And as now we bring the guy, the myth, the legend, Isaiah, on the program. We're talking specifically in terms of the overall game 6. But Marcus Smart said this after the game specifically. He said, we don't want to have this group kind of go down specifically in terms of a lot of what ifs, right? So essentially, they kind of got the group a lot together. Another thing too, Steven and Isaiah specifically, Joe Mazzulla made an adjustment. He made the adjustment to go to double bigs, I think, after what paid off in the first couple of games, because they need to get the rebounds early on and often, because the Sixers been able to pounce on the double chance points and the transition type of plays, and the Celtics were able to make a response early in this overall type of a game. It's really hard in this series, I've been watching at least so far, that teams could play catch up and then try to be able to respond and be able to completely finish the job. I feel like it's been a seesaw of runs, and whoever has a good start and whoever has a good finish for the most part,
that's been the theme.
And has been able to win this overall series. Yes, you've had some overall blowouts like game 2 and I think game 5, But when it now comes to Game 7, and we'll preview this in a little bit, so I want to get to Isaiah's overall thoughts on this Game 6 for the Celtics specifically, is the overall playing back in Boston and overall if James Harden can have a better performance for Philadelphia after what he had tonight. Game 7, Doc Rivers, he has not been good, right? But the Celtics have to be right there. It's literally right there for the taking. And then you obviously have to kind of figure out what's next specifically. But it's do or die. Pretend like this is another Game 6 for the Celtics specifically. Just go out, just do your job, and go from there. So, Isaiah,
But
all I guys got to say
before
is this,
you go to
friend.
Isaiah, Ben, I got a question to ask you guys. Which team in this league is better than this Boston Celtics team, back against the wall, facing elimination, or with an opportunity to eliminate a team?
Maybe Golden State.
Say what you want about the Celtics team. Tell me that they play down to their level of competition, and I will be the first to tell you that. Tell me that they've been inconsistent. But when their backs are against the wall, which team in the NBA is better than this Celtics team? And that, my friends, that rhetorical question is why I have the Boston Celtics taking home the Larry O'Brien Trophy this summer in 2023 for the 2022 to 23 season.
So, Isaiah, without further ado, my friend, obviously, like I said after Game 5, I was either going to come here with a little bit of the season over, or of a little of I'm feeling okay. I'm going to be pretty jittered up for Mother's Day Sunday night, but I can at least live another day. So, obviously, Isaiah, I don't know how much you're able to watch this game, but the Celtics were able to keep their season alive, 95 to 86 overall. And you told me that this series I think was going to go 7. I had it before this series, but I don't know. I just feel like this has a lot of the Milwaukee series from last year for us specifically, where Game 6 that a game that the Celtics just really need, they're able to respond with their backs against the wall, and now Game 7 is really up for grabs. So I just want to get your overall thoughts about this game. And then before obviously we get to you specifically, let me just take a look at this Nuggets Sixers Suns score. It is 91 to 64 Nuggets. I'm gonna have to take a look and kind of see in terms of what's going on there specifically, but we'll talk about that later. Isaiah,
Yeah, bro, I took the Nuggets plus 3.5, Ben. And what's been happening is Jokic and Murray are just absolutely cooking them. They're just getting to their spots.
All right. Well, obviously we'll talk about that later. Isaiah, I'll take it to you, my guy. How do you feel like the Celtics did it, and what's your overall thoughts on tonight's game?
My overall thoughts is I think that after Sunday, Doc Rivers will be out as the head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers. This was a massive choke job by Doc Rivers and the Philadelphia 76ers. I mean, you had Boston on the ropes. Like, you're at home. You had just came back from a 16-point deficit. You had all the momentum, and then you just collapsed down the stretch. I mean, you were up 83 to 81 after Embiid hit the two free throws after Tatum committed that transition take foul. And then you just couldn't get anything going. And, the Sixers had some good looks, but it wasn't just they had some good looks, but most of the looks that they had was a lot of bogged down offense where they were all trying to be heroes and trying to play hero ball, and they weren't sharing the basketball at all, which was a recipe for their success in Game 5 and also for the part of Game 6 where they came back from that 16-point deficit. I couldn't believe what I was watching. The Celtics were giving the Sixers every ample opportunity to win this game. Jason Tatum was very cold. He had only like 3 points, I believe, through the first 3 quarters. Jaylen Brown was in foul trouble for most of the game. A lot of the Celtics players just weren't shooting the ball extremely well. And the Sixers, they were coming back. And they had come back. They'd taken the lead. And then it just seems like the Sixers just forgot how to play basketball. Like, I don't know what happened. I'm still, Ben and Steven, I'm just still mind-boggled what happened in this game. The Celtics, credit to Tatum, he was off to that very, very rough stretch, and it was looking bad. I mean, I was thinking in my head where I was like, oh crap, not only are the Celtics gonna lose, but blowing a 16-point lead and then losing, and then Tatum going ice cold. Like, I was looking forward to a show where, Ben, you would be on here and it would just be the worst show that you probably have done, because
Isaiah, hold on. I was gonna fully go on your go you. Like, I legitimately was about to lose it because
yeah.
this is one thing. Because I told you this before he came on here, and obviously, hold on to your thoughts. I apologize in terms of your overall thoughts, but the Celtics specifically, they got to the 16-point lead in the first half because of a lot of the role players. And I told my brother this specifically, that the Sixers are going to make their run. And it was just bound to happen because the Celtics have so many lapses that happened during the game. But I knew for myself specifically, the biggest reason why it was from a 16-point lead to a 7-point lead was because Jason Tatum in the first half had just been absolutely cold. And I just knew that specifically was going to bite them at some point. I was so worried that what might could have happened. And then the third quarter happens, he still gets ice cold. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. This is a must-win type of a game. Jason Tatum, game 6 last year, was going absolutely on. And then I'm just like, okay, 83-81. I think it was right after that take foul. Tatum hits that three over in the corner, and I'm just like, there's no way. Why do you keep on shooting three after three after three? He made them. I'm like, all right, so, he made one by all means. But then he made the next one. It was against Maxey. It was a crossover. I'm like, bro, there's no way. And then another one hits. I'm like, that's the Tatum that I know. So I just want to obviously get into, because if he was going to be this far, Boston was going to start to rip him. People are already saying on Twitter tonight, trade Tatum. I'm done with this garbage. So I'm so thankful that I don't have to hear all this stuff. And I can honestly honor my guy wearing my shirt, because if he had a terrible game, this shirt would not be on me by this postgame show.
Oh yeah, the talk on Twitter. I mean, it was crazy what was going on. Like, there was like trade Tatum, Missoula needs to be fired.
Oh my goodness.
Brad Stevens needs to be fired as well. I mean, it was like very crazy what was going on Twitter. But I mean, the Sixers had the Celtics where they wanted them, and they just plain old let the Celtics just get away and win this game. I mean, Boston had no business whatsoever winning this game with how they looked in the first half, and also in the third quarter and the fourth quarter, or early in the fourth quarter as well. But it was just a plain choke by the Philadelphia 76ers. And what I don't understand, Ben and Steven, is why does DeAndre Melton, why is he shooting back-to-back threes in the fourth quarter? I mean, the guy was like 0 for something in this game. He finished the game with 0 points, and he just couldn't buy a bucket. And that's kind of why I don't really like watching the NBA nowadays, is guys just get so trigger happy from 3-point land, and then no matter if they're hot, no matter if they're cold, they're just going to keep shooting it, and then when they don't have it, they'll just keep shooting it, and then a 2-point lead ends up turning into a 9-point deficit because they go 0 for 3 from downtown, and the other team cashes it in on 3 straight possessions. And I think that Melton should have just gone. He should have given the ball to Harden. He should have given the ball to Embiid. You got to give the ball to your playmakers in that situation, and he didn't do that. He just kept taking all those bad shots. And for the Sixers, Steven always brings up this choke theory thing, and I know the score, it was a 9-point game, but it was a really close game. And I think that if the Sixers had gotten blown out, I think if you're a Sixers fan, you should feel really good, not really good, but you should feel pretty good going into game 7, because your team could have just been like, okay, whatever, we got blown out, game 7 will be a different game, we'll be ready to play. But it's the way they lost tonight. The Philadelphia 76ers had all the momentum, and they had Boston on the ropes. And it was like, you guys remember when Deontay Wilder knocked the heck out of Tyson Fury, and he was just laying there on the mat, and he was ice cold, and there was no way everybody thought he was going to come back. That's what happened to the Celtics tonight. They got knocked the heck out, and they were just laying there on the mat, and there was no way that me and I'm pretty sure a lot of people thought that they were going to come back. But they somehow miraculously rose up and came back, and they ended up winning. And that's why for the Sixers, it really hurts, because You should have won this game. You should have won this game. And Doc Rivers and the Sixers just choked it again. And now it's back to Boston for game 7. And after the way you lost, I just don't see how the Sixers can come back mentally from this type of a defeat, given that, they had Boston and they let Boston off the hook.
Well, I'm going to say this as well, too, is Doc Rivers, I feel like when it gets in crunch time, just absolutely doesn't know what he's doing. Like, essentially the in-game adjustments when it comes down to the playoffs specifically, there's a specific reason. And Steven, you probably agree with me too. I love Doc as a Celtics coach. Of course, he got us to the finals. But I can't even recall time specifically where, in that late, in-game type of adjustment specifically, he had no business of what was going on. This is specifically in terms of why I look at this overall series right now specifically, and you look at Jason Tatum being this ice cold. Isaiah, hear me on this. Jason Tatum was ice cold essentially be all the way to like 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, and the Sixers just did not take advantage of it. Just think about that specifically. That was your golden opportunity specifically right there. That reminded me specifically when the Celtics were up 2-1 against the Warriors specifically, and in the finals last year. And the Celtics, I believe, were up like 5 or 6, 7 points in the fourth game where you could have went up and said 3-1, now it's 2-2. They're like, oh boy, it's momentum swings are very crucial in the playoffs. And you obviously looked at game 5 specifically. The Celtics looked at him like, oh boy, we're gonna put up or shut up. And the Celtics, and Isaiah, I respectfully disagree in terms of your overall first half. I thought the Celtics specifically played a really good first half. The star players did not play a good first half. And that was the biggest reason why specifically of where it got to in the second half specifically. One guy that I thought the Sixers probably would have started using it closer to the end of the game, Tyrese Maxey. I feel like Tyrese Maxey they maybe took out for Melton. I'm not sure specifically. But the guy was absolutely just destroying us. I mean, he had 26 points tonight. And beat at 26 points tonight. But you know what, Isaiah and Steven? Harden, under 20 points. That's where the Celtics can be. If they get and beat the points that you can get, and you keep Harden within 15, even 17 with like 20 points in game 7, I love our chances. I really do, because the Celtics just have to lock in specifically. If Brown and Tatum could get mid-20s and you get some role players around him, I think Al Horford still even do, because Al Horford, the last couple games has just been, part of my language, dog shit. I mean, his offense, he just does absolutely nothing. So you're just hopeful that one of these games specifically, where you go now to Boston, where I think that's the last thing Philly wants. And let's be real, guys. A lot of Philly fans even online were saying, okay, do we really think we could win 3 games in TD Garden, let alone we already had 2? 3 games in TD Garden. I told myself to my brother after this that the Celtics aren't mentally ready to go for it. Game 7 in your building, and you lose 3 times. No offense to the Sixer fans out there, but 3 times this Philly team, you don't deserve to move on. I'm sorry, you don't deserve to move on with a Doc Rivers type of overall, team that's been really struggling in Game 7s with his overall career, and you lose the way that you lose specifically. It's either the Celtics have a good ride again, they play Miami for a potential rematch, because let's all be real, and we'll talk about that series in terms of where it's going to go. But I think we'll talk more about. Let's just say that. But obviously we'll have a show Sunday night specifically, but thankfully now I can go to church on Sunday morning and have a prayer. I could have a prayer because Sunday it's going to be like the Bruins for me specifically. I'm going to have all the prayers in the world. And let's just also be real too. This hat specifically, Steven, if you want to put your camera on, this hat that I'm wearing right here, this was the hat that I wore through the whole entire finals run last year for the Celtics. I did not I had my other Celtics hat specifically for game 5. I put this on because I'm like, I need to have this. There has to be something here. So game 7 happens, and I have this hat on, which I hope to have, and we win. Boom. I love our chances again. So we'll see specifically in terms of where things go for that. And then Isaiah, another thing too, we're going to also talk about the NFL schedule release as well. So we're going to have a lot of fun talking about that. Now let's get into the game that is currently happening right now. I obviously don't have this game on at the overall moment. So if you guys want to quickly give me an overall score of that. You know what, actually, let's go quickly into game 7. Let's do a little preview in terms of that specifically and kind of where you all have this specifically. I know we kind of had a little overall thoughts. I always had Celtics. Let's just say this: I always had Celtics in 7 before the series, and I thought that this was going to go back and forth type of series. It's been a really good series before, by the way, as a whole. But I think specifically, like I said for the last time prediction for Game 6, if you put a gun to my chest and you ask me this point in time right now who I think's gonna win this specific game, I have to give my team. It's do or die. They already did it once. Now they can go back. I gotta believe in the guys. I think Jason Tatum specifically, after 3 straight cold games, I just find it hard to believe that he's going to have another first half like he did. And I really think that ending of this game tonight should be a confidence for his next game also too. So I think it's going to be. I agree with Steven. I think it's going to be probably within the 6 to 10 point overall range. But I think that the last couple of games, Isaiah and Steven, that the Celtics have done a little bit better specifically on bracketing Embiid. I know that Embiid, of course, is still getting his points, but I think specifically that if they lock in, they play the way that they can play. The thing about the Celtics, get a double team and loose ball it. That's the best way to do with Embiid because I don't believe in Embiid's passing abilities. I never have, never will. It's when Embiid gets down close to the paint and to the basket where he gets comfortable, there's no answer, right? So you're going to have to be able to get right when he catches the ball, come in double team and get that transition on the other end, and that's where you'll be able to win tonight in that game Sunday. So TD Garden was already cursed for that last game for the Bruins, so I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But I'm just hopeful that we take this dub and go back to the Eastern Conference Finals like last year. So I'm gonna go six. I was gonna say Sixers. I hope not. I'm gonna go Celtics. I'm not gonna say a score, but I was pretty pessimistic of this past game tonight, and the fact that they won it going back, I feel a lot better than for Game 6 specifically because I just think that it's back in the building. The crowd should be rocking on our home fans, and I think the last thing the Sixers wanted to go back, even though they will be ready. It really just depends in terms of how we play and we lock in. So I have us and going to the Eastern Conference Finals. Let's get to you guys, your overall predictions on where this Game 7 is going to happen. I'll take it to you, Stephen. I probably have a decent feeling where you're going to have it for this, but what do you think is going to overall happen in this game?
Hey, Ben, in the words of the Celtics in-game announcer, JT for 3. You're going to be hearing a lot of that in Game 7. Like Isaiah said, choke theory now comes into play. The Sixers had all the momentum heading into Game 6, took the momentum in Game 6, couldn't finish it out. Jason Tatum, Celtics back against the wall. They are the best team in the world when it comes to elimination situations, and Game 7 will be no different. I do think the Celtics come out swinging. The Sixers probably put up a furious rally and have a better game from Harden and Embiid. But unless Harden and Embiid play near perfect, they're not winning this game. I got the Celtics by 6. They play 4 really good quarters. Sixers keep it tight at the end, and the Celtics put it away at the free throw line. As far as I'm going to wrap up for the night, but I wanted to say about a couple more things. As far as the Nuggets game, I think it's been really impressive that I've been able to predict the winner and the spread for every single game correct in that series. It's the first time I've ever been able to really do that. So I wanted to give myself a shout out for that. But basically, the Nuggets, man, Jokic is 12 for 15. He's 12 for 15 with 24 points and 12 rebounds. Wow. Murray's having himself a game, man. He has 26 points right now on efficient shooting. Contavious Caldwell-Pope has stepped up with 21 points. And then finally, Michael Porter Jr. rounding them up with 10 points. Just an overall really good team effort from them. KD has been able to get to his spots, but outside of KD, it's just been the same old Suns when it comes to these elimination games. They just don't respond, and I don't know what's up with them. Picks for tomorrow night before I head out, guys. I got the Heat minus 5.5. I know it's a hefty line, but you got to pay this one up. Jimmy Butler does not mess around when it comes to the chance to close out an opponent. The Knicks are gassed, man. They've had a long and physical series, first with the Cavs and now the Heat. Jalen Brunson and RJ Barrett each played 48 minutes last game. You got to wonder how much they have left in the tank. And Brunson had to play near perfect for them to pull away from the Heat last night. So I got the Heat winning by 6 tomorrow night. And then I actually got the Lakers closing out the Warriors now. because Andrew Wiggins is questionable with that rib injury. I think these subtle differences
Oh
make the
boy.
difference in the series.
He's
So now
trying
I
to
got the
keep the
Lakers
team. This is a
by 3.
genius move by
So
Steven. He's
I
trying to
got the
keep
Heat
the Lakers.
minus 5.5 and the Lakers
No
minus
way.
2.5. Listen, guys, I've been on a heater. I have
He
8 wins in a
has.
row pending. Assuming the
No,
Nuggets don't
he
lose by 4 or more today, I
Isaiah,
think that's pretty safe. But I got the Heat
the
minus
Celtics in Game
5.5,
6.
Lakers minus 2.5. Trust my picks.
Been on a roll, Steven. Steven, we appreciate you coming on, my friend, and we'll definitely, hopefully, to get your your overall thoughts from Game 7. But I appreciate you coming on, my friend.
Yep, appreciate it, man.
All right, so we'll have me and Isaiah kind of finish off the rest of the program. We might have James. I'm not sure specifically. It seems like James is probably on his other network for tonight. So Isaiah, we'll obviously kind of talk about the rest of the series for the NBA, and then we'll go over to the NFL schedule release, which should be a lot of fun. I'll get your overall reactions on your team. I'll kind of go through mine. I'll kind of go through some of the rest from there. So with that being said, um, Isaiah, what's your overall thought specifically in terms of this Knicks Heat series? Obviously, that the Knicks responded after being down 3-1. I thought specifically that it took a lot. Like Jalen Brunson and Quentin Grimes played like 36 to like 40 minutes of this game. I mean, they're going to be absolutely just waxed. And I thought that the Knicks specifically, a lot of their DNA this year has been very mentally tough. So I'm just like, they can at least make this series at least presentable, and at least kind of do it that way specifically. Um, so what was just your overall thoughts in terms of that overall game from the other night? And do you feel that the Knicks still have enough in the tank to come back in the series and make it a game 7?
If it was in New York, if Game 6 was in New York, I'd probably say the Knicks would advance to a Game 7. But since it's in Miami, I think it's going to be like the Lakers Warriors situation, where the home team, right, the team with the home court. It was a do or die Game 5, and the crowd's going to be rocking. Their backs are against the wall. So, of course, they're going to respond. Now it's going to be you have to go on the road to play the opposing team on their own home court, and it's going to be tough. I think that the crowd in Miami is going to be jazzed up for this game. I think that you're going to see a Jimmy Butler with vengeance in this game, and I think it's just going to be too tough for the Knicks to overcome. And I think Miami will have control of this game from the get-go, and I really believe that it's going to come down to Bam Adebayo, because when Bam Adebayo has played well, the Heat have dominated. But when Bam Adebayo has not played well, the Knicks have been able to keep it close. So if Bam Adebayo plays well and he dominates early in this game, then I think that the Heat are going to control it. But if it comes down to Bam Adebayo just not playing well, then and it gets to like let's say a 5-point game or a 6-point game, then I think it could swing the Knicks, just because I don't trust the Heat from downtown, and I trust the Knicks better when it comes to shooting the basketball. And we've seen it in the games the Knicks have won, that they are just a better shooting team than the Miami Heat. And the Miami Heat, they just need to take control of this game from the start. Don't let the Knicks hang around, because the Knicks hang around, they'll be scary. And I think that the Knicks will have a chance. But I think Miami seizes control of this game from the get-go. And I see Miami advancing to the Eastern Conference Finals, which honestly is improbable given the fact that, they're the 8th seed. I don't think we've ever seen a team from the play-in tournament get this far into the postseason. And it's just crazy. I knew Miami would be a tough out, but even I did not have them going to the Eastern Conference Finals. That's how crazy it's been. But I got the Miami Heat winning this game in Miami.
This Knicks game as a whole specifically, they had a really good start. And, I think specifically with the Knicks, though, the biggest worry that I have specifically is, holding the lead. Because I felt like for a lot of this game, they were in control until the fourth quarter. And with the fact that the Heat were able to at least make this game within reach, should just tell you a lot that I feel like if Miami just kind of is in control from the start to the end, I feel like they're just the better team right now. And another thing too is you look at the starting five. Jalen Brunson 48 minutes, R.J. Barrett 38 minutes, Quentin Grimes at 48 minutes, Julius Randle 36, Mitchell Robinson 26. Everybody had 25 minutes plus. You can't have that specifically to be sustainable in a series moving forward because you're just going to be waxing your guys out. You're really going to have the guys waxed out, especially when you only have a day or two apart to play until your next game. So they really took a lot, and of course, they needed this win, but they obviously it took a lot out of them for them to just kind of make this at least a series respectively. And Miami, I think specifically, yeah, Bam Adebayo, I agree with you, Isaiah. 18 points specifically, 7-11 from the field. That doesn't seem like a horrible stat line, but you probably would expect better. I mean, you look at the rest of the team. Duncan Robinson, of course, did okay off the bench. He was a big reason why they were still on within that game. But Kevin Love played 60 minutes with 4 points as a start. I mean, you can't have that. Gabe Vincent, 6 points. Max Strus only 14 points. Jimmy Butler had 19 points. I mean, Jimmy Butler had 43 minutes having 19 points. You obviously hope that he would have more because he's the guy. He's the catalyst guy to really put the team on his back specifically. And I think that the Miami Heat are going to I think the Knicks are going to battle him out to the game 6, but I think they know what's at stake. Spoelstra, I believe more in him when it comes to that. This reminds me a little bit of the Philly Celtics situation. I mean, obviously that the Heat were really in control being up 3-1, but at the Knicks come out to steal this game in Miami, man, MSG for a game 7 is the last place that the Miami Heat want to go to. Yeah, of course they've handled different situations, but I think specifically it could really be anyone's game. I think really for the most part, a lot of people are taking Miami at this point in time. Give me Miami for the game tomorrow night, and then move on. Of course, I'll just give you a quick score update that's going on as of right now. It is 112 Nuggets to the Phoenix Suns 82. Man, Isaiah, of course, you said off the air that you wanted to get some of your overall thoughts. So, of course, I really haven't watched a lot of this game specifically. But what do you think specifically is the Suns' problem? I mean, the Suns specifically, the last 2 years have gone out to straight sad. That not only they've lost, but they've gotten blown out. And when you have 2 superstars in Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, there's absolutely no excuse. I understand that the Nuggets, of course, have been a really good team, and they're probably one of the perennial favorites to potentially go to the finals. But you're in a game 6. You're playing for your season on the line. I mean, specifically, if the Celtics had this overall performance tonight, I would just be just livid. I'd be just in an overall rant type of overall mood. But it looks like the Nuggets are going to be winning the overall matchup between you guys and the Warriors. So, what's your overall thoughts on this game overall as this game is coming closer to an end tonight?
I think Steven said it best before he left. The Suns just plain out didn't show up. And it's really embarrassing because, like you mentioned, Ben, this game is a game 6, win or go home type of a game. It's the biggest game of your season, and it's on your home court, and you don't even show up. Like, you were down by 40 at one point in this game.
Wow.
I think at halftime, it was 79. If I'm looking at this correct, no, it wasn't even 79. It was like 81. It was 81 to 41.
Felt like the game against Dallas last year. Wow.
Exactly. Like, it was a 40-point blowout at the half. Like, the Suns just didn't show up. And I think for the Phoenix Suns, what has gone wrong for them in this game and in this series is Devin Booker in this game did not show up. He's got only 12 points. You cannot only have 12 points as we go to the fourth, or as we are into the fourth quarter of a win or go home elimination game. That just absolutely cannot happen. Devin Booker at this point in the game needs to have at least 30 for the Phoenix Suns to be competitive. And I think that, Ben, I think we're going to see major changes in Phoenix moving forward. I don't think that Monty Williams honestly will come back just because after last season, what happened, them losing that blowout, the game against Dallas in Phoenix where they got blown off their own home court. And then now you look at tonight, same thing. Back-to-back blowout losses to end your season, and you're ending your season getting blown off your own home court. Like, that's just absolutely unacceptable. And you're not going to trade away Durant. You're not going to trade away Booker. You're not going to scapegoat any of the players. The guy that you're going to scapegoat is Monty Williams. And I think Monty Williams, after tonight, will be let go by the Suns. And for the Phoenix Suns, I think the other problem with the Suns is they have a lot of stars, but they don't have any depth whatsoever. Outside of Durant, Booker, and CP3, there's really nobody on the bench or the starting lineup that you're just like, okay, these guys can complement Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and CP3. Like, there's really no consistency when it comes to the role players. Like Jock Landale, he'll show up from time to time, but you can't really count on him. TJ Warren has 0 points right now. You can't count on him. Landry Shamet had a great game in game 4, I believe, but he's been nowhere to be found in games 5 and 6. Cameron Payne is 27, but he's been inconsistent throughout the series. Bismack Biyombo's had 2 points. Torrey Craig's got 2 points. Damian Lee, who you signed for his 3-point shooting, he's 0 for 5 from 3-point land. There's really no consistency when it comes to the supporting cast around Booker, Kevin Durant, and CP3, and I don't know what really you do, because you have a lot of money tied up to Booker, you got a lot of money tied up to Kevin Durant, you have a lot of money tied up to Chris Paul and that ridiculous contract that you gave him. I think you gave him like a 4-year max when he was like 35 years old or something like that, and you just don't have a lot of money to spend when it comes to the role players. It's kind of like the Lakers when they had Russell Westbrook, where you had the big three and then you had a bunch of guys that honestly shouldn't even be nowhere on the NBA court. I mean, that's how pathetic they were. But I don't really know what you do. Maybe you do a coach. You're probably gonna have to do a coaching change this offseason. You can't bring back Monty Williams. Maybe you hire Nick Nurse, see if he can work his magic with this team. But it looks really ugly. And Ben, I think that Devin Booker, I don't see him staying his entire career in Phoenix, because Kevin Durant's getting older. He's 34 years of age now. He'll be 35 next season. He's got probably like 3 more years of it left in his prime. CP3 is clearly on the downhill. DeAndre Ayton, I mean, I don't even want to get into his status, because after what happened today, that really disgusted me. But I mean, I don't know what you do with him, honestly. I don't think you could even trade him at this point. But yeah, I just don't see Devin Booker staying in Phoenix long term. This Suns window was closing fast, and I think you could argue it might have already closed the last couple of seasons. I think their best shot to win a championship was to win a championship with or against Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Bucks when they had that 2-0 lead, and they sadly squandered it. But now you look at it, the rest of the West is getting stronger. Durant's getting older. The rest of the team is just hamstrung by big contracts. There's just really nothing you can do if you're the Phoenix Suns, and if you're Devin Booker. And last but not least, before we get off the Suns Nuggets topic, DeAndre Ayton should be ashamed of himself. I mean, the Phoenix Suns, Ben, I think, if they weren't hamstrung to that big contract that they gave him, I think the Phoenix Suns should release DeAndre Ayton this offseason, because you're really going to sit out the biggest game of your team season, a win or go home game 6, and it's on your own home court. You're going to really sit out because of a rib contusion. Like, are you kidding me? Like, not a fracture, my friend, but a rib contusion. I mean,
soft.
Like, yeah, exactly. How soft are you? You're going to sit out because of that? Like, I've seen LeBron James. Heck, he's playing with a torn tendon in his foot,
Mm.
and he's still playing. I mean, that just can't happen. Your team paid you $100+ million for you to show up and for you to just sit because of a freaking rib contusion. I already lost a lot of respect for Aiden after I think it was game 1 or game 2 where there was that video clip where he was literally standing a few feet away, and you had Jokic getting like every single rebound, not doing anything. I already lost a lot of respect for him for that. But after tonight, I think all my respect for Aiden is gone because you just can't have that. You just can't if you are truly in it to help your team win a championship. That just can't happen. And I think that, myself and Ben would probably be saying the same thing if, let's say, LeBron sat out because of a rib contusion or Jason Tatum missed game 7 because, he had a bruised right wrist. Like, you can't. Like, if it's not a fracture, you got to play, man. Like, you got to play.
100%. And I, of course, I didn't know about this. Of course, I heard that he might have been out for tonight's game, but yeah, I mean, you're in a must type of win type of game specifically. And I looked at the overall, just the box score as I just put it on now for kind of the rest of it. And you can't have Cameron Payne in a must win type of game to be your leading scorer. I know no respect to him. I mean, he's probably a great guy and all, but when you have two superstars, Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, and you have a guy that's not either of them to be your leading scorer. That pretty much is telling from the start of it. Um, I think really as a whole, specifically, I'd say it was really in terms of the Suns. It was in terms of carrying between Booker and Durant for as long as they can be. And if one of them specifically was just a very subpar to none, especially in the type of a game like this, um, it was going to be over. It was just going to be game over specifically. But with that being said, yep.
Before we move on, I just want to say this one thing about the Aiden situation. To me, he quit on the Suns tonight. Because I think he could have played. I think he definitely could have played. And for him to choose to sit out, I don't believe that Monty Williams, Matt Ishbia, their new owner, and their GM James Jones, I don't believe that after you pay a guy $100 million that they would bench him in the most important game of the season. This was a DeAndre Ayton decision. This wasn't a Phoenix Suns organization decision. And we saw last year, where Ayton was supposed to go into the game, but he decided not to go in because I guess Monty Williams didn't want to play him, or he had some strong words for him late in that game against Dallas in game 7. But this is unacceptable. And if I'm the Phoenix Suns, I'm looking for a way to release him this offseason. If you have to eat the rest of the contract, I mean, it's going to be tough, but I would do it just because I just think at this point, DeAndre Ayton has proven to be just toxic right now for the entire organization.
Yeah, it's going to be a really very interesting offseason for the Phoenix Suns specifically. To conclude our overall program for tonight's NBA segment, of course, with the Celtics postgame show that happened after tonight's victory to force a game 7 is your Los Angeles Lakers, I'd say. And of course, I saw your overall thoughts from it pretty clear on Facebook after that game the other night to the Warriors specifically. And I thought to myself specifically this, that I knew that the Warriors weren't going to go down without a fight specifically. I thought that this is a team specifically that had the defending champs for a reason. I saw this at firsthand with them last year in the finals. I just thought for the most part, if you look at this overall as a game specifically, the Lakers still have 2 chances to close this series out as a whole. But, of course, now specifically with the Warriors, they after this win, it might give them a little life. Specifically, this is a must-win game now for the Lakers. This is definitely now a feeling, specifically like the Sixers, that now this is a chance for you guys to close it out because crazy things have happened specifically. So what's your overall feeling takes? Of course, I feel like you probably had a lot from what you had to say the other night. But just look at this overall thing. LeBron at 25, AD at 23. Of course, AD left the game early yesterday. Specifically, it looks like he is probable for next game, so that is good news for you, Isaiah. For the Warriors specifically, Stephen Curry, 27 points. Andrew Wiggins, 25. Klay Thompson only had 10 points. Man, that's definitely a little worrisome if you were you. And you just got to remember, Isaiah, game 6, Klay Thompson, the playoffs. You know what could potentially happen. So I just want to warn you, you probably know it at best hand. But let's get your overall thoughts specifically of this game 5 between the Warriors and your Los Angeles Lakers. And where do you think the series is going to go from here?
Ben, if you had asked me before yesterday, I probably would have told you that the Lakers definitely needed to take that game because you don't want to give the Warriors any sort of momentum. You don't want to give them any sort of chances and daylight. You want to put them down and put them down instantly. But I thought the Lakers. I thought the Lakers had a lot of issues. Their transition defense was awful last night. It's been awful throughout this entire series. The Warriors have just had a lot of open looks running back where the Lakers just don't get back. And then you look at, I felt like the biggest issue for the Lakers was the fact that they came out really bad. They came out really slow. They came out looking like heck. We don't care about this game. We want to see a game 6 back in Los Angeles. And there wasn't really anybody that showed up the first 3, 4, 5 minutes of the game when Golden State got off to, I believe it was like a 21-5 start or something insane like that. Like the only guy that was actually scoring was Reeves and Davis. They were the only ones that were actually doing anything. But LeBron kept turning the ball over. Schroeder kept turning the ball over. D'Angelo Russell was bricking 3 left and right. Vanderbilt, I don't know where he was. He was kind of lost in the fold. But the first 3, 4 minutes was like that tone that was set for this game. And Draymond Green came out really aggressive. And I think that was the one thing the Lakers didn't expect was that he would be aggressive, going to the rack, shooting the 3 ball. The Lakers, I think, flat out didn't expect that. And credit to Draymond Green. He played a great game. It showed that, he came out with that urgency that you need in an elimination game. But I think the Lakers just got to do a better job of coming out with better energy and better urgency. Because like you mentioned, if the Lakers lose this game, sadly, as a Laker fan, I don't think they'll go back to Golden State to win game 7. It's going to be very, very tough. Like, that's why tomorrow is an absolute must win for the Lakers. And I'm trying not to look forward to that nightmare situation where the Lakers blew a 3-1 lead literally after I think I came on here, or it was one of the programs that we did where I said the series was over basically. I don't want to look forward to that situation. But if the Lakers blow a 3-1 lead, Darvin Ham's got to go. He's got to go. Like there's no way you're up 3-1 and you have a chance to close the Warriors out, and if you deliver back to back clunkers to end the series, you got to go. And there's better coaches out there that I believe right now that are available on the market. But in terms of what happened last night, I thought it was the Lakers not coming out strong. I thought it was LeBron just not really being effective. Lakers just settling for jumpers instead of driving to the rim and dominating in the paint. And also, the Lakers' transition defense was extremely awful yesterday. And then, I got to touch on this, and it might be controversial, but heck, I'll say it. The referees were awful yesterday. Like, they were awful. I mean, the Lakers were getting kneed, they were getting elbowed, they were getting, hit in the head, and there were a bunch of calls that should have been fouls. And it wasn't called, but on the other hand, it's on the Warriors side, it just seemed like a little touch of Steph Curry's wrist or a little touch of you touch someone a little bit, and that's a foul for the Warriors. Like the foul discrepancy was just extremely bad. And I'm not saying that for the refs. I'm not trying to blame the refs for the Warriors or for the Lakers losing, but I think at the end of the day, we all just want fairness. We all just want the refs to be consistent, not just call it one side this way and then the other side. You can't even get a foul unless you literally get body slammed to the ground. That's the only way that they'll call a foul. But I mean, the Lakers got to come out stronger in game 6. And I think it starts with D'Angelo Russell, because when D'Angelo Russell gets going and he's good offensively, it just seems like the Lakers are, they are off to the races. But when Russell struggles, it just seems like the Lakers get into this mode where everybody tries to be like Russell and tries to chuck up every 3. And you're not going to be able to win a 3-point shooting contest against the Golden State Warriors. So I think for the Lakers tomorrow, they got to get off to a stronger start. LeBron's got to punish the Warriors in the paint. AD, if he plays, he's got to punish the Warriors in the paint. And D'Angelo Russell, if he wants to have that big-time contract that he wants, I think D'Angelo Russell definitely needs to get going. He needs to give the Lakers 20 to 25 points, and he can't only give you like 2 or 4 points in this game if the Lakers want to win it. But this is the game of the year for the Lakers. The Lakers are going to advance. They have to win tomorrow because there's no way they're going to go back to Golden State for game 7 and win that game. I just don't trust the Lakers to do it. So I'm scared like heck, man. I'm not gonna lie. I'm scared like heck. Before yesterday, I probably would say I was super confident, but after last night, I'm just like, I don't know, because if the Lakers lose tomorrow, I think I'm not gonna say all hope is dead, but it's gonna be close. It's gonna be close.
Well, before we move on to our next segment, I just want to congratulate the first team in this second round that is going on to the conference finals. Congratulations to the Denver Nuggets as they're officially under a minute left. They are fully on. The Jokic is going to potentially go on his mission to get, I believe it's going to be his first finals. I think specifically in terms of under him. I'm not specifically sure if that's the case, but congratulations to the Nuggets. That TV now could go off because that game is officially on wraps. So we could move on to our next topic, Isaiah. And our next topic specifically is schedule release day. Now, obviously, specifically, I was really focused more on the Celtics and Sixers game tonight. But obviously, specifically, there's a lot of stuff. And I guess I'll put this under topic. Actually, you know what? I will hide that. I will edit it and make it schedule release has happened. But obviously, Isaiah, what's your overall thought specifically in terms of the schedule release? Of course, we'll get into kind of both of our overall games specifically, but of course, a lot of times on schedule release day, they do the leaks out, before kind of the main event at night. So we kind of saw some already. And of course, the Chiefs being the Super Bowl champs, they get to kind of play their first game. Who would have thought the Detroit Lions, a team that's been absolutely just in the absolute mud for so long, gets to now be on the big bright stages to play at Arrowhead Week 1? Of course, it's just great to kind of see specifically in terms of a team like that. And of course, Laura, if you're listening, we'll talk more about it on Sports Weekly. Edward Patrick Brady is coming back. I am so excited to see this. I was looking at this. I legitimately had to go before work to completely just celebrate in the shower. I was completely excited about this news. But without further ado, Isaiah, what was your overall thoughts on the schedule release day? It's always a great, exciting time as we can kind of get ready, maybe even buy some early tickets if you want to, but just kind of see the overall schedule and be like, man, give me the fall already and move on from summer.
All right, so I'll save my thoughts on the Niners schedule because I think we'll talk about it later. But when we get into our teams, but I think my overall thoughts on the schedule release is that I think this is going to be one of the most exciting years we've seen in the NFL. There's a lot of great games. A lot of the times, you look at the schedule for the holidays, right? Like the Thanksgiving, the Christmas, and a lot of the times it's not really like that good of games. But when you look at it this year, oh my gosh, the holiday games are going to be epic this year in the NFL. I mean, I might have to skip my family's Christmas dinner and Thanksgiving dinner just to watch some football on those holidays because look at these Thanksgiving games. I mean, you got Packers at Lions to start off, Jordan Love versus Detroit. The Lions and Packers always play each other extremely tough. And as James comes
welcome, James,
at the right time, man. Commanders and Cowboys. I mean, that should be a good game. And then last but not least, Niners and Seahawks to end the night. I mean, the league just did itself great this time around when it came to the holiday games. And then you look at the Christmas Day game. You have like Giants, Eagles, I believe, is one of the games. Niners and Ravens, two teams that should be battling it out when it comes to playoffs in the respective conferences. And then I'm trying to look at the other games, but for Christmas Day, I think is it right that there's only 2 Christmas Day games?
3.
Oh,
there might-
Raiders and Chiefs. Sorry, James.
Yeah, that won't be a game though. That's going to be horrible.
That might be a lot of offense, though, not a lot of defense, because we know that both teams don't really play defense.
Just on one side offensively.
Yeah, that is true. But the holiday games have me just going crazy, man. That is such a great slate of holiday games this year, and we also got the Black Friday game. The only game, Ben, that I'm not really that thrilled about is Chiefs Lions. Like, I feel like the NFL could have done a lot better with that. You know,
Chiefs Bengals.
Chiefs Bengals, yeah, that would have been an amazing
Bills.
Bills. Yep.
Yeah, you could have done the Super Bowl rematch. You know, you could have done Chiefs Eagles as well. I just feel like there were better options than what the Chiefs Lions matchup. You could have put Chiefs Jaguars too. That could have been a good matchup. But I think Chiefs Lions, I felt like really undersold how epic the schedule is. But man, it's gonna be a great season. I'm looking forward to it. And you know, also the last thing I will say before I hand it off to James and Ben is that the Aaron Rodgers era will be under a massive microscope in New York. You look at the Jets games. I mean, it's going to be crazy tough, the first 6 games for the New York Jets, because I believe they start with the Bills, and then as I'm trying to pull up their schedule, but they have the Bills to start on Monday Night Football, and then they play the Cowboys in Jerry's World, and then they play, Ben, your Patriots, and then they play the Chiefs in New York, and then they play Russell Wilson, Sean Payton, and the Broncos, who should be good. And then they play Philly. And then they play the Giants in the Battle of New York, and then the Chargers and the Raiders. Like, I mean, that is a tough schedule for Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. And, you know, if they can maybe, you know, start off maybe in that, maybe 7-game stretch. If they can start off 4-3, I think they'll be okay for the rest of the year. But imagine if they're 2-5. Imagine that New York media just be like, is Aaron Rodgers done? You know, is Robert Saleh gone? I mean, is this Aaron Rodgers trade like Russell Wilson to Denver 2.0? Should the Jets cut Aaron Rodgers? I mean, that might be an unthinkable question that end up popping up. Like, it's going to be crazy if the Jets end up 1-6 or 2-5 to start the year.
Definitely so. As we welcome our good old friend here, James Gonzalez. James, welcome here on the program as you're coming from your other show to mine, so I do appreciate that. James, before we get into the NFL schedule, just want to say, how about them Celtics? As I'm repping my stuff, we're moving on to a Game 7, and of course, congratulations to the Nuggets. As I mentioned with Isaiah, the first team to go on to the conference finals. So obviously, James, before we got into the schedule release, did you want to get any overall thoughts from tonight's overall 2 games?
Well, I was listening to the mostly the fourth quarter of the Celtic game, and it was just fortunate that Tatum showed up finally late in the fourth. That was really needed. And then Marcus Smart was really giving it all, it sounded like. What was it? Then he scored 22 points. That was awesome. Brogdon stepped up. But yeah, Tatum finally, and that's what they needed. And then they need everyone Game 7. And then it feels like now the 76ers, they feel like, well, if we don't win here, we're not going to win Game 7. They're going to need all hands on deck as well. But James Harden doesn't really show up in those games, and that's going to hurt him again, you know, just like the previous years. So Embiid would have to have a breakout game. But I like the Celtics, they were able to overcome all those turnovers, it seemed like in the third quarter. They had a lot of turnovers from what I heard. You know, Tatum was losing the ball. Brogdon was doing it a lot too. They looked they sounded out of whack. Let me just say that. And then
18 turnovers.
Oh, wow.
Brutal.
For the Nuggets and the Suns, I was just telling Isaiah this in the chat. if you fire Mike Budenholzer, you should fire Monty Williams. This is 2 straight years of this crap. I don't care if you could say, hey, they missed Chris Paul, they missed DeAndre Ayton, and Ayton should have gave it a try at least. And I'm nobody saying that, by the way. I'm nobody at all. But it would have been a better image if he at least was playing in the warm-ups, at least, not in street clothes. I mean, that just – once I saw that, I was like, there's no way they're going to handle Jokic. Who's going to guard Jokic? Biyombo? He's old. He's fragile. He's ashy. He's got ashy legs. There's no way he can guard Jokic as slow as Jokic is. There's no way they can guard Jokic with just Biyombo. There's no way, dude. So, yeah, Monty Williams, he has to get fired. And I would do – you have the new owner in there as well. I would start over kind of new with a new coach. Someone that can handle egos, because you're going to still have Booker. You're still going to have Durant. You're going to still have Chris Paul. And then, like I was mentioning with Isaiah earlier, you still have that problem sitting there, and you have him for like 3 or 4 more years with DeAndre Ayton. Remember after the finals with Milwaukee, they benched him. He didn't see eye to eye with Monty Williams ever again, and it still seems like that to be the case. But yeah, the Suns have all these problems. I think they have to fire Monty Williams. As much as they loved him, I also think that Kevin Durant trade hurt in a way because they didn't have that depth that they had coming off the bench. It was a key factor for 2 years straight. You know, Cam Johnson was huge, Bridges was huge, and they don't have that now. And it seems like Denver kind of has that. They have that will to win, and I hope they go all the way, honestly, to the finals. I don't want to see the Lakers at all, Isaiah. But, you know, shout out to Cameron Payne, at least played his ass off. That was good to see for the Suns. He was kind of lost in this series, I felt like. But Devin Booker with only 12 points in the elimination game, that wasn't good at all. Sorry, Isaiah, to say that, but it was true. And it's just terrible because
James, he's coming to LA. He's coming to LA this offseason.
No, he's coming to LA for a vacation. That's it. That's 2 straight years getting beat on your home court by the Suns, getting blown out. Last year was worse, but this year with KD, it feels even worse, I would think, because you had expectations. You had a shot, maybe. And I know the excuse is going to be like, hey, well, they didn't play the whole season together, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. You got to have all that. You have all that talent together. You should be able to handle business. But it shows that the Nuggets, they've been together all year long. And with a healthy Jamal Murray, with his 11th career triple-double in the playoffs, 3 in this series, by the way. With that happening, the Suns are done. You can set them, sunset. The Nuggets, with these two, that should be the I don't know what the newspaper is. Oh, yeah, the Arizona Sun Republic. That should be their title in the newspaper tomorrow. The Sunset. But, dude, with a healthy Jamal Murray and with Jokic playing at his MVP level, the sky's the limit for the Nuggets. So I can't wait for them to get to I want them to get to the finals, like I mentioned. But that's all I got for the Game 6s that were something.
Definitely. So before we continue with our topics on the NFL schedule release, James and Isaiah, this is just the overall latest. So Lakers-Warriors, Lakers up 3-2. Celtics, Sixers tie 3-3 going to Game 7. Nuggets-Suns, the Nuggets have won that series. And the Heat-Knicks, the Heat are up 3-2. Continuing on in terms of our overall NFL schedule release specifically, let's go now into our specific teams. Isaiah or James, I will take it away to you guys first. So, you know what? With that being said, it feels like now specifically too, I could go now on my Yahoo Sports app, and it really feels like it's kicking in that I can see now week 1 of the schedule on my phone of every single team. So let me just go to the Niners schedule, shall we? I'm going to take a look at this, and we'll go through this really quick because Isaiah's here. So let's take a look at this, Isaiah. All right. So let's go to this week 1 at Pittsburgh, at LA, home against the Giants, home against the Cardinals, then home against Dallas, at Cleveland, at Minnesota, home against the Bengals, and then you have a week 9 bye. November. From after that, you have at Jacksonville, home against Tampa, at Seattle, at Philly, home against Seattle, at Arizona, home against. Oh, you have Christmas Day or Christmas night actually against the Ravens. That'll be a lot of fun. And then you have at Washington, and then home against the Rams. The Niners specifically. Let's see. They have couple primetime games. They have the Giants game, which is Thursday night. They have Dallas, which is hopefully Zeke can embarrass himself again, as a center, maybe down the stretch in that game. At Minnesota on Monday Night Football. And then, by the way, that's why I don't like Dallas. I've never liked them. That really made my night, Isaiah, when that happened. At Seattle, right around Thanksgiving, 8:20. I mean, what's your overall ceiling if you look at this overall schedule? I know it's hypotheticals. People like to get ahead of themselves, but with this specific schedule, I mean, for the most part, obviously you have your NFC West. I mean, you guys should still be within range of being that top dog, but without Purdy, probably for a lot of that season specifically. Do you guys go back to overall with Lance? It's kind of a big interesting thing with their quarterback situation, but obviously, Isaiah, defense wins championships, and you guys still are a top 3 defense. So looking at that schedule specifically, any eye-opening type of weeks or games that you're just like, man, let me just get me to this game specifically. I cannot wait. It looks like it's just like a really good schedule. It's going to be a tough one, though.
Yeah, I agree, especially that middle part of the schedule. When you look at the Niners from week 7 all the way until week number, I believe it's week number 12, where they have the Vikings in Minnesota, the Bengals, the Jaguars, the Bucks, the Seahawks, Philly. I mean, that's going to be a tough portion of that schedule right there. And I'm looking at it right now. If I had to predict the Niners' record, given how tough the schedule is, because looking at the schedule, it's no joke. Like, this schedule it's pretty tough. I probably would say I'd probably give them 11 wins just because it's just really tough. And I know the Niners, the biggest thing with the Niners is their secondary is not that good. I think they're going to beat up on the NFC West teams. I have zero faith that the Rams are going to beat the Niners, the Cardinals as well. They're rebuilding. Seattle might be a little bit tough just because the Niners have always struggled in the past when it came to playing in Seattle. So that might be a little bit tough. But I'm looking forward to these games when it comes to the Eagles, man. I wanted the Eagles week 1. Like, that was the game. I was like, give me the Eagles week 1 because we have unfinished business to settle. But I'm looking forward to week 13. Dallas at home is going to be a good one. The Bengals with Joe Burrow coming to Levi's Stadium. I mean, that's going to be a tough one for sure. And I think the last one is definitely the Vikings, just because,
you and Steven.
Oh, yeah. We're going to go back and forth on that one. And I think, is that a holiday game or is that a Monday? No.
Let's see. I think that was like towards the end of their season.
Yeah. So that's going to be like when both teams are vying for playoff spots in the NFC. So that definitely is going to be a good game. But I think for the Niners, if Trey Lance does start, he has an easy road to establish himself because he's got Pittsburgh, which is a pretty tough environment, but still, Steelers aren't that good of a team. Then you have the Rams in LA. Then you have the Giants, the Cardinals, rebuilding club, and the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the Niners realistically could start out 3-1. Or 4-0, and I think that will give Lance a lot of confidence if he is a starter to go towards the middle of that tough schedule against a lot of playoff teams in the NFL.
All right, so that's your schedule, Isaiah. Let's go to your schedule, James, in the I almost said Oakland.
That's
Vegas,
okay.
sorry. I legitimately feel like a broken record. I've been saying Vegas. I've been right on it, and right as I say your team, I say Oakland. Let's go to your team, James, and Vegas. Let's go to week 1. So at Denver, at Buffalo, home against Pittsburgh, at the Chargers, home against Green Bay, home against my Patriots on October 15th, 4:05. Jot that down. James, we're going to go at it. No, it's okay. And then at Chicago, at Detroit, right around Halloween. And then back-to-back games against the New York teams. How about that? You have Aaron Rodgers, and you have the Giants come. You have the Giants, then you have the Jets coming in, and then you have at Miami, and then you have Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs right around Thanksgiving. This is right before Isaiah, right before their bye. They have the Chiefs. You just talk about it tough. You just talk about tough. And then right after the bye, you have home against the Vikings, home against the Chargers. Christmas Day, you have James. You have at the Chiefs. So that should be a lot of fun. You have a Christmas. Maybe you have a Christmas miracle in Arrowhead. We'll see.
No.
You never say never.
Never.
And your final 2 games you have at the Colts and then home against Denver. So man, that's obviously. I just feel like you guys have like a lot of like home, and then you have like one like game on the road, and then you're like a really hard game at home. So I feel like Denver, at Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Chargers. Like I feel like you guys can maybe manage kind of that early stretch. But then, you have the Bears, you have us, I don't think we're going to be great, but I'm going to be okay. Then you have the Giants, you might have the Jets, it's kind of depending on how things go. Then you have Miami, you have Miami and then Kansas City right before the bye. That is just going to be brutal. I'm sorry, James. But what's your overall thoughts in terms of the schedule, James? And in terms of your overall ceiling specifically for this Raider type of team, you're now without Derek Carr. That's going to be really just completely weird. That's going to be definitely a lot to get used to. I'm going to be obviously looking at game 1 and be like, wait. This is not Derek Carr we're talking about. This is Isaiah's old friend, Jimmy G. And Isaiah, if there's any type of scouting report, maybe you want to give James. Actually, me too, because Jimmy G was on my Patriots. We could both give James the Jimmy G scouting report if you want to. But we'll keep that for another time. But what do you think, James, and all jokes aside? What do you think overall your schedule?
I'm gonna be finding something else to do. Watch these games. Ooh. I'm counting. I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have like so many damn primetime games, but we don't deserve them at all.
The big question before you continue, James, is how long until McDaniels lasts during this season?
Well, what I hear is that the owner is too cheap. So he can't fire him until like a couple of years. So, but then he goes out and spends some money. So it's weird. So looking, week 1. Let's just say this against the Chargers and Broncos. I think this year those will be split. Last 3 years, the Raiders have swept the Denver Broncos, but I think this year Denver's a little more rejuvenated. So, and that all goes on Russell Wilson. If he keeps the high knees low, I think he'll be better. He won't piss off everyone. I think that would be great. Oh, then look, we go to Buffalo to have their home opener. That's going to be a 40-point blowout, won't it? Yes, indeed. Then you go to the Steelers, bring all their fans in to Las Vegas for Sunday Night Football. That will not be fun. Their defense is really good. All we have a chance is to disrupt their offense, Then you split with the Chargers, it feels like. And then that Monday night game against Green Bay, it feels like anything can happen. If Jordan Love finds a rhythm, he could tear apart the Raider defense, no doubt. And I'm looking at the Patriot game, I'm thinking, man, there's a lot of connections here, The head coach the GM is now with the Raiders. Jacoby Myers, let's see if he throws the ball backwards 20 yards again, but for the Patriots this time, and do New England a favor. That would be interesting. But that game should be really close. It's really depending on Mac Jones. I don't know what we're going to see from him. Go to Chicago. That's never fun. The Raiders never travel well going east. And then I was looking at this too. It's a Monday night at Detroit, and Detroit has like 6 primetime games. The NFL really believes in the Lions, but somehow they believe in us to have a lot of primetime games too. That really Detroit might embarrass us depending on how that goes. And then both New York teams come in 1 week right after another, so all those fans are going to come in from New York, and I have to imagine the Green Bay fans come in too. So a lot of cheese will be had. But those New York teams coming in, they're going to take over the stadium. And then, Ben, you mentioned it, man. Both games are going to be track meets with Miami and Kansas City. And it's only going to be one-sided. Miami and Kansas City are going to run circles around the Raiders. I hope this time Kansas City doesn't do a ring around the rosy play or in the huddle and then do a play for a touchdown. That was highly embarrassing. But guess what? Hey, in Week 13, everybody wins because the Raiders are on a bye. And then Minnesota comes in. All those purple people will come in to Las Vegas. And then Thursday Night Football, you got the Chargers coming in. I feel like that game won't mean anything. And then Christmas, if you want to see kids cry at Christmas, put on the Raider game. It's going to be a blowout. It's going to be 50-0 Kansas City. Then we go to the Colts and watch Anthony Richardson put up like 4 touchdowns on the Raider defense. And there will be hope again for the Colts maybe in that game. And then guess what? A game that won't matter maybe. Denver and Las Vegas Week 18. I know the Raiders will be out of it, but I don't know how Denver is going to be. I'm thinking the defense is going to be rejuvenated. The running game is going to be better as long as they don't fumble, but they don't have certain people there anymore, like Gordon fumbling. They'll get Devontae Williams back. They signed P-Line, who I really wanted or Jacksonville really needed, but instead Denver gets another good running back. So my prediction, though, I would think 5 wins in reality for the Raiders. If we're using Michael Jordan terminology, the ceiling is the roof, and hopefully maybe 8 wins will be the ceiling for the Raiders, but definitely no playoffs for the Raiders this year.
Oh, Ben, I think you're muted.
I was muted. Thank you. To be quite frankly with you, James, I know you're probably pessimistic, but it could be worse. The Patriots are in top 5 in strength of schedule, being the toughest out of any team right now in the NFL. So if you want to listen to my schedule, by all means, be ready for this. So with this being said, the Patriots actually don't open up with Miami for a change. I feel like every single time I can chalk this up as Miami Week 1, but actually no. For a change, it's going to be home against Philly. And that's going to be when Tom Brady makes his return back to Foxborough. Tickets are already at the highest out of any type of overall website at this point in time. I think it's $800 right now for secondary markets potentially for the specific game. So it's going to be an absolute crazy war. I'm going to try to still find how I can get it. Maybe I can sneak it. I'm not sure. But, that's going to be Week 1, home against Philly on 4/25. And then Miami, Sunday Night Football at home. So actually we're going to have back-to-back games at home. And then we have to face Aaron Rodgers Week 3 at their place. So we have Philly, Miami, and then at Aaron Rodgers. But wait, it gets tougher. Then you have to go to Dallas for Week 4 to play the Cowboys. And these 4 games specifically, you have a 4/25, you got an 8/20, you got a 1, and then you got a 4/25 again. And then we have the Saints, which I think we could be, the Saints are okay. We get to come here, and then we get to go face the Raiders, James. So may the best team win there.
Yours.
There's no crazy fumble or crazy thing at the end that will give me a heart attack. But time will tell about that. And then we have to play at 1:25, 1 o'clock against Buffalo. Maybe just because we'll probably get blown out in that game. They obviously want to. No offense to us, but we'll probably get blown out like typical with Josh Allen and that defense. But we have Buffalo. Then we have to go to Miami, of course. So we have home against Buffalo, and they have to go to Miami. And then we have home against Washington.
And then we have a game overseas. So the Patriots, I don't think you guys have any games overseas for your schedule, but we have a game overseas. We have the Colts on November 12th at 9:30. So James, I don't know if you James or Isaiah, you like coffee or whatever. I'm not a big coffee person. Might have to drink some coffee that day. And then week 11 we have our bye, and then the second half or the schedule we have to go to the Giants. And then we have the Chargers at home at Pittsburgh for a Thursday night game in December. That'll be really tough. And then home against Kansas City, Monday Night Football. That's not going to be fun. And then Denver at home. That's going to be Christmas Eve night. Christmas Eve night. Yeah, Christmas Eve night. That might ruin my overall Christmas. Because high altitude, right around that time should be fun. And then we, of course, have to go to Buffalo after that. And then home against Aaron Rodgers. So it could be worse, James. So.
Yeah, that bottom of the schedule is brutal.
Yeah.
Let's
I
look
told
forward
that to
to
my
that.
dad today. He's just like, let's just pray. That's all we guys got to do. So we just got to sit there and pray. And, I think many people that are non-Patriot fans are probably, loving this. You guys have been spoiled forever. The dynasty, of course, has been over since Brady left. But all jokes aside, specifically, I'll say this specifically. I think we split with Aaron Rodgers. I really do. I think defensively we'll split with him. Bill Belichick has done really well against Herbert. I think that we can be able to take that game against the Chargers, even though it'll be close. Denver, at that place, I don't know. It really kind of depends, like you said, James, how Russell Wilson plays with Sean Payton. But I'm expecting their best. So that'll be a really close game. The Buffalo series, I'm expecting that Buffalo we can split. I really do. I mean, we're due for a game to split against them. So, I mean, we've been close right with them, too. I like our defense specifically. At Vegas, James, I think we get our payback. I think we get our revenge that game specifically. I'm sorry to tell you about that specifically. And then maybe at Dallas, I don't know. Isaiah, I always just feel like Dallas is that overrated type of offense specifically with Dak and company. I don't know. I feel like we could touch it. So I think at worst, probably 7 losses, but I think at best, probably like 9 to 10. So probably like right in the mix there, potentially getting like a wild card or so. But yeah, those are kind of our 3 teams schedule specifically. Before we get into our last topic, before our trivia, which by the way will be football by tonight, so let's be ready. Actually, one of you guys can give the question. So while we're doing the show specifically, be ready to start quizzing me on some of that stuff.
Mhm.
Be ready for that. I was going to say this specifically. What week are you guys ready for it specifically, I guess, in the schedule? Because, I mean, every week's great. But I don't know. I just really like the time of football, specifically right around Christmas, because it's just like it's right in that point in time of year where it's just like it's crunch time, and you kind of really can find a see specifically in terms of what teams are always in it. And, of course, then you can kind of get that Nickelodeon crap off my television because I don't know why they do that stuff for football. But yeah, just your overall thoughts. Any other games that are like out to you? I guess the really cool one, I guess, is the 9/11 game. The 9/11 for Bills and Jets to open up the season. You get Rodgers, you get Allen Rodgers debut in the Jets. That'll be really cool. Christy, thanks for chiming in. Cowboys.
Tonight this year,
I think 10-7 or 11-6 for the Cowboys. We'll see, Christy. I mean, I'm excited to face you guys in this year's season. And of course, there's more comments here. So thank you guys for those that have been joining for tonight specifically on that. So any other comments, guys, on the schedule release?
Yeah, I mean, about the Patriots schedule, I think the first half or the first 4 or 5 games of your schedule is rough, and then the last 4 or 5 games is rough. Like, I could see a situation where the Patriots start off, especially, if the offense I think will be better than what it was last season, right? Because it's Bill O'Brien running it and not Matt Patricia. But it all depends on Mac Jones, right? Mac Jones is the wild card in all of this. Like, how he does, I think, will really determine what the Patriots do. If he ends up sucking and he proves that last season wasn't because of Patricia, it was because of him, then I think the Patriots are in for a bigger mess than what we thought. But I mean, I'll be interested to see the first 4 games of the Patriots and the last 4 games, just because I could see a situation where somehow, some way, New England ends up starting the season, 2-5, and then, then it's gonna be like, oh crap, we're gonna have that discussion. Is Belichick on the hot seat? Belichick gonna be gone, especially if because their first 4 games is tough. Like that's not
So
a
bad.
joke
It's
of the first 4 games. Like
so brutal.
yeah, you play the Bills, I believe, the Eagles to open the season, the Jets. I mean, if they start 0-4, Ben, I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of talk out there from, the media that is Belichick done in New England, especially if they start 0-4, given how Robert Kraft has said, hey, I'm not happy with the progress of the team right now. I expect big progress moving forward. If you start 0-4, that's not going to be good at all. And if, let's say not even if you're starting 0-4, we've seen people get not fired, but we've seen people get in trouble with how they finish. So the start and the finish, I think, for the Patriots will be the most important part. If you guys can stay afloat, be 500 or even a game below 500 after the first 4 games and during the middle of the schedule, I think you guys will be fine. But you have to get off to a strong start.
Yeah, it's I can't say anything better. It's going to be a really tough schedule. And to make things crazy more, guys, this is Mac Jones's make or break year. He's a 5th-year option at the end of this season. So no other better testimony in terms of Mac Jones. This is your time, my guy. You play essentially in the top 5 strength of schedule on the toughest part of the schedule. And by the way, of course, you have the GOAT coming in week 1 against the Eagles with him taking a look at your overall team. So no pressure, kid. So with that being said, guys, we will move on to our next program for tonight. Baseball. We will quickly kind of go through our overall team reports before we get into trivia. I love to do this overall team reports with you guys specifically. So let me quickly get out of this. Where is baseball? Let's see specifically on that. Here we go. And we will start with the Angels, James, for your team. The Angels. Let's take a look. I haven't really kind of seen in terms of what's going on.
You don't want to see Saturday last weekend. I know that.
So the Angels took 1 of 3 from the Astros. They were right there, I guess, throughout the week specifically.
Yeah, all the games were close, yeah.
So if you want to kind of just get through that overall week specifically, you guys have the Guardians coming up this weekend. You guys currently are in 2nd in the AL West, so obviously that's not a bad spot to be at this point in time. Right now, you guys are 3.5 back of the leading Texas Rangers, which, by the way, Isaiah, your overall pick on that pick right now is looking okay. No pressure still because there's still a lot of season left. And I still think with Altuve coming back, you still can't forget about them. But the Angels are 20-18, James. What's your overall outlook from this past week with them, the overall matchup with the Astros, and then this weekend coming up against Cleveland?
Yeah, the worst is yet to come. Go back to last weekend. Angels stole a ball game Friday night against Texas, and then dropped the next 2 against Texas, 10-1 and 16-8. It was awful. I was at all 3 games. I felt a little bit of surprisement on Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday, I was just like, all right, let's go do something else. Fortunately, I wasn't at any 3 of the Astros series, although the Angels did win 6-4 on Monday. And they had to come back, though. It wasn't their game. That's where Houston was missing Altuve, Brantley, which I thought Brantley was going to come back this series, but he didn't for Houston. But that didn't stop Houston from winning. The next 2 nights, Ohtani gave up 3 runs, and that's all they needed was Houston. They won 3-1. The Angels couldn't get anything offensively going against Framber Valdez. So that dude is amazing. His breaking ball, curveball is good, and then he'll blow you away with the fastball. And then Wednesday, the day game, the Angels lost 5-4. They had a chance to come back. And this is where I question Phil Nevin as a manager. there was a situation where you had to move runners over, and it didn't get done. And all they could have done was a bunt. You would have had one out with runners at second and third. And they didn't. It's simple baseball.
Oh.
Excuse me, but I feel like analytics get in the way. And that tells you, hey, just try to go for the 3-run home run. Yeah. Whatever. Today they had off, and then 3 games in Cleveland. And Cleveland themselves, they find themselves, in third place in the Central. But they're going to get help from the Angels. The start pitching is off. The offense in clutch situations is off. The defense is off. I heard a stat yesterday. The Angels have 29 or 28 errors. And that's the worst in, I would think, the major leagues. And then the earned runs are a problem. And that didn't help the 2 games against Texas, but they're high in there too. The catching situation, another one bites the dust. Chad Wallach is out for 7 days or 5 days, I guess, now. But that's 3 with Cleveland. By the way, Sunday is on Peacock Network at 8:35. So are you early risers, you want to see a blowout in the morning, go watch the Guardians blow out the Angels on on streaming whatevers. And then
that'll get me going before my stress of the Celtics. I'll do that.
That's right. And then 4 with the Baltimore Orioles, the rejuvenated Baltimore Orioles, who feel like their magic is back there. They have all these young players, and they're really good. So 3 night games, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday against the Orioles, and then a dreaded morning game for the Angels. Well, afternoon there, morning here. And then reminder, last year, the Orioles swept the Angels 4 straight in, I think it was July or June last season when they had to play 4 in Baltimore. So the schedule makers made it something where we have to play 4 games in Baltimore. And maybe we'll get 1 game this time in Baltimore. And then the homestand comes back on the 19th, Minnesota, Boston for 3, and then Miami. And then we finish out the year, the year it's going to be. It will be out of contention by this end of this month. We go to play the Chicago White Sox. But, yeah, it's a road trip coming up, and I'm really not looking forward to it because the Angels never do well on the road.
All right. Isaiah, we'll get to your overall with the Phillies. They had an absolute wacky way to win the other day against the Blue Jays, which I appreciate very much because the more help out of my division, the better, because we are the best division in baseball. I'll argue that with the wall. It's been absolutely bonkers. Now, the Phillies this weekend, I actually don't remember who they have on the top of my head.
Colorado for, I think, 3 at Coors Field.
Oh, okay. That's gonna be interesting. Yep. They have Tyler Walker's on the mound tomorrow. For the Phils. Now the Phillies, they stand currently at the moment in terms of their record. I'll tell you, the NL East has a lot going on right now. A lot of injuries. The Phillies are 18-19 specifically. They're 7 out. The Braves right now are kind of in the command at this point in time, which I, by the way, had them winning the division. But you said, I believe, last week, Isaiah, in terms of the Phillies, that this is the biggest stretch for them to kind of, get back into the division. The Braves have some injuries pitching-wise. Kyle Wright, Max Fried. The Mets are legitimately been garbage. They've had 5 straight series losses. They've just completely been just the Reds. They just lost series to the Reds. They lost the series to the what was it? What was that team? The Rockies. I mean, they're just falling apart.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're the Phillies right now, Harper just came back. I mean, now's the time. Now's the time that if you want to at least have a chance to go to divisions. I'll let you take it away, Isaiah. Give your report now for the Phillies.
Well, Ben, I'm glad that you don't let me talk about the A's because James said that the worst is yet to
I
come.
feel like it's a broken record if I asked you. So
Oh yeah. Well, the A's are right now 8-31, and if the
Oh my
worst
God.
is yet to come for the Angels, given their schedule, well, the tsunami is yet to come for the A's because look at fellas, let's look at this before we get to the Phillies. Let's look at this schedule coming up for the A's. They're 8-31 right now. They have 3 remaining games against the Texas Rangers, the first place Texas Rangers. Then they played 3 games against the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are playing really well right now. And they played 3 games in Houston against the Astros. So good luck with that. Worst pitching
They
team.
actually, you know what? The A's actually played Houston really well last year. So I don't know. Maybe they're giving something. I'm not sure.
They did, but I feel like this pitching staff though is definitely miles worse than last year's.
Okay, all right. You're right about that.
And then they continue on with 4 in Seattle against the Mariners. So, and then after that, it's 3 versus the Astros. So, who knows? Maybe after this, this 19-game stretch, the A's might legitimately be sitting here with a record of 8-60. I mean, that's how, or 8-50. I mean, that's how pathetic they are right now. And I mean, I don't know. I think that it's gonna be a surprise if the Oakland A's even win 50 games. That's how bad they are right now. But about the Phillies, you're right. This is definitely the time where the Phillies need to, if they want to make a run at the division, if they want to go to the playoffs, this is the time for them to get their act together and start winning games. Because you play against Colorado for 3, which, I mean, it's not easy going to Coors Field. That's going to be definitely 3 games I'm looking forward to because the Phillies pitching, especially the bottom of the rotation, hasn't been good. And you're going up against the Rockies with that rotation. I'm kind of scared about that, especially when you have 3 guys whose ERA is like 6 point whatever going into Coors Field. So good luck with that, Phillies.
I know how that feels.
Oh yeah, and then they play in San Francisco for 3, and even though the Giants are not good, the Giants always play the Phillies tough. I don't know what it's about with Gabe Kapler's team, but they always play the Phillies tough, so that's going to be tough. And then they play the Cubs, and then they play the D-backs for a 3-game series before it's the Braves, the Mets, and then the Nationals, and who would have thought, the surprising Detroit Tigers, who are 2 games out of first place at last check in the American League Central. But this is the time for the Phillies. You got to definitely win these games if you want to keep up in the division and also in the wild card. And a lot of these teams that you're facing in their upcoming weeks, their pitching is not that good. So the lineup, it's time for them to start getting hot. Time for guys like Schwarber, Bohm, Harper, who haven't really swung the bat well, Trey Turner, who haven't really swung the bat well, to get going now. And I think the Phillies, if they could be able to withstand this stretch of games and actually capitalize on it, I think they'll be good going into June, where they have the Dodgers, the D-backs, and then, oh, by the way, they played 3 games in Oakland against the Oakland A's, and I mean they probably will beat the A's like 15-1 every game, because the A's literally, I mean, the Yankees scored in a 3-game series recently with Aaron Judge playing only 2 games. They scored 45 runs in that entire series,
and then they got shut out tonight against Tampa. The Yankee fans around me were saying that they were so-called back because they beat the A's pitching. Okay. Oh, yeah. Let's just be real. Let's take a chill pill here. All right.
They outscored us 45-6. That just shows you how bad our pitching staff is.
I shouldn't be laughing. I mean, in terms of the manager, Isaiah, for the A's, like, what do you even do? Like, specifically in terms of this overall product, like, I just don't know, like, how he, like, I don't know what he does.
Well, I think that Mark Consley, to be honest, I have a bad feeling that he's going to be scapegoated at the end of the season, because if you lose 100, let's say, I don't know what the record is for most losses by a major league team, but I'm sure someone can pull it up. But I think that if you, like, let's say you go 50, let's say you only win 40 games, right? If you are the worst team in baseball history, and you go like 40 and 120 or 30 and 130 or something absolutely outrageous like that, which it's looking like the A's could be headed for that, 130 losses, 120 losses.
Okay.
If you're like 100 games under 500, if you're 90 games under 500, Mark Kotsay is going to be scapegoated because you got to scapegoat someone for that.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to be able to run it back with the same group. So, I think that Kotsay, honestly, this is probably his last season managing the A's. And sadly, I think, and I told James this before, I think what the A's are going to do is that they're going to do what the Raiders did with John Gruden. They're going to go big name hunting, get a guy that is past his prime, get a big name so that they can sell tickets. Because there's no fans going to the games right now in Oakland, and they're going to try to get someone that can, be a big name to try to draw some fans to the games. That's why I brought up like Joe Madden. I think could be a good fit, even though I don't even know if Joe Madden can last an 80 game under 500 team with Joe Girardi. I mean, I don't know. Like, if Girardi managed the A's, you guys remember Girardi's ejections where he was going ballistic and he's got like veins popping out of his like neck and head. We're going to see that every single day with the Athletics, where he's literally getting ejected every single game.
All right. Well, we'll see specifically. Go ahead, James.
You know what Mark Kotsay should do now about the team or whatever, his speeches or whatever? He should be like, hey, gotta have fun. Clearly. Try your best and go have fun. We're the little leaguers of the league. Go out, have fun. Most of you won't be here next year. Just go have fun.
Yeah, I mean, as a manager like that, I mean, I don't even know what to say. Like, you probably get all these questions from the media, like, how do you get that? You have to at least start something. I did find the overall team, guys, in terms of the most losses. It was the 1899 Cleveland Spiders, worst single season record of all time, minimum of 120 games, 20 and 134.
Oof.
Yep.
What about like recently? Like
what was the record? 20 and what?
20 and 134.
Ouch.
Yep. So we'll see specifically how the A's can accomplish that overall feat. But with that being said, specifically for my Red Sox, let's just say we're heading in there. We had a really tough road trip. We had the Phillies for 3. After we swept the Blue Jays, we had the Phillies for 3, and then we had the Braves for 2. And the Braves they might be the best NL team in baseball. And we essentially did pretty much what I asked for. I essentially was hoping for a season series win in Philly, and the Bracer was only 2 games, so I was hoping at least for a split. And they did that. They went 3-2, which feels like a very big time thing for the Red Sox. The first 2 games came down to a couple big time, hitting outspurts. The game on Sunday, Tyler Walker did a really good job, getting our offense going. Kind of stymied them, and then Tuesday, Nick Pivetta just did not have it start to the game. Atlanta just kind of really took advantage. And the Red Sox are going to be having a lot of questions, specifically in terms of the bullpen, because Whitlock's going to be coming back soon. Houck's still in the rotation. Paxton's actually coming back tomorrow. He's making his debut for the Red Sox, so that should be great. And then Brian Bayo. So yesterday for the Red Sox specifically, it was all about the kids that made the impact on the win. Brian Bayo in this game yesterday against essentially one of the best teams in baseball's offense. He went 6 innings with 6 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, and 5 Ks with 100 pitches specifically. He's been working with Pedro Martinez this all off season. I've been really excited for this kid. So the Red Sox were actually up only 3-2 in this game. And then in the 9th inning, they got 2 hits, one double from Jarren Duran, and then 2-run absolute tank majestic shot from Tristan Casas. And then it went to Kenley, and Kenley Jansen got his 400th career save yesterday. Congratulations to Kenley. I'm really happy that he's now here. This feels relieved to have a closer. I mean,
I want to know.
I felt that way last year too, so we're in the same boat. But yeah, no, he's been absolute nails. Chris Martin in the 8th inning has been great. Our bullpen's just been really good. It's been, I don't have to go around and just butting my nails left and right now in terms of when we have a lead, late in games. I just hope that our bullpen specifically can just be, right there and just do what we can do. So 3-2, I count that as a win really for the Red Sox. And now the record right now, and you hear about this, guys. The Yankees are in last place, and they're 21-18. I mean, this division as a whole, it's insane. The Rays are 30-9. The Orioles are 24-13. The Sox are 22-16. The Jays are 21-16. The Yankees are 21-18. So, as it seemed to probably lose Isaiah, I'm not sure if he'll be back or on. But that being said, we'll continue on. Yeah.
What I didn't realize, Tristan Casas, Bob Costas mentioned this, but I know his average is bad, but his on base percentage is fairly good.
Yep.
What?
Yeah, no.
I caught Tuesday's game, and I saw what you meant about Pavetta. That first inning was a killer.
Yeah, no, he just never really never got into his overall self.
Yeah.
And against the better team specifically, he just does not have that put away stuff. Kind of similar to Corey Kluber. He's just it's very wacky here and there. He could live against decent, okay teams, but he's had his moments here and there against the better ones, but it's very inconsistent. But with that being said, still, I count it as a win. 3-2 on the road trip is all I asked for. Now the Red Sox go back home. They have the Cardinals this weekend. The Cardinals have been up and down. So I hope that we can at least take 2 or 3. And then next week, which I'll be at the Monday game, I'll be in Boston for that game at Fenway against the Mariners. I've never seen the Mariners before at Fenway, so that'll be kind of a new one for a change. So the Mariners are coming in on Monday, and they're 18-19, so they're up and down. They're kind of been right in the mix. J-Rod's been really cooling. I mean, this was a guy last year that was been one of the most electrifying players in baseball, and right now he's been one of the most cool in terms of his overall type of average. I mean, he's not getting ready at all, but I'm expecting a lot from him in that offense. Should be a really fun series. So I'm excited to be there on Monday. So I'm expecting the Sox to at least take half the games on a 6-game homestand. I'm just hoping for half, and we should be okay for the West Coast trip.
The Sunday night, it's going to be a Sunday night game for that Cardinals Red Sox game.
Yes.
And I wonder how deep the ESPN crew will dive into the Cardinals' struggles. You'll hear it every other inning. They're going to highlight something, but hopefully Boston just runs them over, And then it's funny you mentioned that with Seattle, with J-Rod. Man, it's funny how he has all these commercials and everything else, and I think somehow the league – for now has found a way to control him. But then eventually, if he's good enough, he'll break out of it. That always happens to a player that starts off well, and then they'll go on a slide. And then if they're good enough, they'll adjust to everybody else and what they're throwing. And maybe it's a timing issue. I don't know what it is, but I expect Seattle already. They're better than what they were, and I expect them to do a little better.
Yeah, definitely so. So, with that being said, though, I think that, we're right at that 2-hour mark. I think we're going to conclude tonight's show. I think that we're going to move on. We're going to have trivia back to next week. It's getting late at this point in time for me. So I think, with that being said, before we go into our final thoughts, James, we do have some comments here. So let's quickly go on to that. I appreciate Isaiah, Steven, and you, James, for coming on for tonight's program. Edward Lee, thank you for coming on. He said Warriors win Game 5 against the Lakers. Looks like Jokic, this was kind of during the game, the Nuggets Suns game, that Jokic left the game. It seems like he's going to be okay. I watched the end of that. Isaiah said DeAndre and Quinn on the Suns tonight. Yeah, I mean, he obviously missed that game. Booker request out to LA.
Not everybody can play on the Lakers, Isaiah.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But I guess you can dream. Callan, thank you for joining in. Callan earlier. Hey, Leon, how about the Phoenix Suns, baby? And then Callan also said, hey, Leon, Diana Taurasi will always be the greatest Arizona athlete of all time. Booker isn't on our level. Taurasi was a Connecticut UConn type of player, so I like that a lot. Edward Lee, NFL game 2023 starts soon. I'm excited. Christy also had this comment that I had earlier about the Cowboys. Edward Lee also said Giants won game 6 against D-backs. Okay. Edward also said Casey, the Giants rookie, has his first home run. And then Edward Lee also said Giants rookie Casey Schmidt had his first home run. All right. So with that being said, thank you guys for the comments. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys joining. But we're going to go to the final thoughts. And James, I know that you came out kind of mid part of the program, but I still appreciate you coming on as usual. So what's your overall final thoughts before we conclude tonight's program?
Yeah, it was a busy day today, and I did a couple shows in a row back to back, and my voice is going to be gone for the pregame show tomorrow for the Angels in Cleveland. I came home and I realized, oh, yeah, the NFL schedule came out, and I get to see who the Raiders will lose to for the majority of the season. So I guess that was good to know right away tonight. So thank you, Ben, for having me on.
Thank you. And, just my overall final thoughts. Thank you, guys. Thank you all for attending for tonight. Obviously, I'm pretty happy about the Celtics in terms of they can stay another night. They can live another night. I also was thinking, James, too, that the Sox are playing in Boston Sunday night, and I believe the Celtics will have a Sunday night game. So there'll probably just be nobody at the Sox game against the Cardinals Sunday for the ESPN game. Well, time will tell. We'll kind of see specifically how that goes for that. So,
yeah. I was thinking about that. The time difference.
I mean, the Cardinals probably will bring their fans, though, so it should be a decent crowd specifically. I know last time the Cardinals were here, it was Albert Pujols last weekend actually in Boston, so it was a decent crowd. But, I think there'll be probably a decent crowd, but obviously with the Celtics on Game 7, whole city of Boston is just going to be jumping for that, whether they're going to be at a bar or whether they be at the game. I'll be at Fenway on Monday when the Mariners come in, so I should be really, really excited. That's my third game for the season, so it should be fun. But yeah, we obviously got through kind of the NBA playoffs. We'll talk more about that. We'll probably have a post-game show on Sunday after the game for Game 7, so tune in for that specifically. Time and date to be determined. And then MLB, obviously, we'll talk about that next week probably. Kind of just really do the Celtics post-game show on Sunday, and then we'll kind of start the stuff next week. And yeah, I thought tonight's show was good. I thought overall everybody did a great job with that specifically. So with that being said, I thank you all. Before we conclude tonight, make sure to keep tabs on the IM6 stuff. As usual, any of our shows, Sports Weekly, we might have something coming up the rest of this week. Tom will tell about that. But James, without further ado, thank you for coming on for tonight's show, and appreciate you guys for joining and kicking with Kruse as usual. And we will see you guys next time. All right, take care, James.
See you, man.